So the problem with this is the primary clutch is not supposed to do this. See this part here inside there? That is supposed to be screwed on to the shaft here, and I think there's a locking nut on that. That's supposed to be screwed on there very tight, and the nut locks it in place, but I think it's stripped. But now the problem with this thing is the hole in the clutch that the puller threads into, those threads are all stripped. So how do I get this thing off? That's the question. Nope, that didn't work. This is cool. I managed to chisel the nut right off, and I can tell you that the nut was tight. Yeah, chiseled that right off. So now this part here should come off. Should come off somehow. So I managed to beat the spider out of there. There was a little bit of threads left on it, so once I got it coming off, the threads got caught on there and it was really hard to get off. Now this part here won't come out because it hits the tunnel right there. So I'm thinking I'm going to cut it here, and I'm going to weld a big nut on there, and if I can find a good size bolt to fit in there, that'll press on the end of the crankshaft. That should work like a puller and pull it off. So I should be able to tighten it up real good, give it a few whacks right here, and hopefully it'll pop off. So I'll get it assembled here and tighten it up and see what happens. So I'm going to have to change the spring out because this clutch is off of a 900 Thundercat and it's a different color spring, so the engagement speed and all that's going to be different. Might have to change the weights too. So I have to take this cover off, and it's under spring pressure right now. So normally I'd use something like this. Something I had made before, just goes in the vise and can use it to tighten down the cover and take the spring tension off. But this one's made for a Ski-Doo and it's a little bit short. So I just used this big carriage bolt I had and stuck it in the vise. But it'll do the trick anyway. So right now I have this tightened down, and I can undo all these bolts on the cover and then let it go, and it'll come off in a controlled way. Then I can put the new spring, the new weights in, and put it back together. We got Lucy here today. Say hi, Lucy. So nothing ever goes as planned on these things. I mean, this clutch has probably been sitting for a couple of years, you know, not being used. Maybe even longer, who knows. Anyway, all the rest of these bolts came loose, but this one. So I ended up twisting the end off my socket, which is now stuck in the head. So I tried a chisel, tried hammering it, turning it with a chisel. That didn't work. So what I'm gonna have to do now, because vice grips won't catch onto that, it's not sticking out enough to really grab it well. What I'm gonna do is take this washer and weld it to that. That'll also kind of protect the aluminum around from any damage. I'm gonna weld that on there solid, and then I'm gonna weld this nut onto the top of that, and I'm gonna try it with a wrench. I'm gonna try it easily because those bolts are not very big. It may twist off, you know, down here or something. So I'm gonna heat it a little bit. It'll have to be very careful because there's like a plastic wear pad on here. Teflon or plastic of some kind that slides up and down. So hopefully that works. So there you go. Bolts out. Pretty rusty. No damage to the clutch. Now I'm going to be one bolt short, but what I can do, since the old scrap clutch, all the bolts came out perfect, I'll just use those bolts on this cover. So all the bolts are out, now I can take the cover off. And there we go. Wouldn't be much spring tension on this, but sometimes, depending on the spring, it comes out a lot farther than that. This I made with a piece of a carbide runner I cut off for some reason, and a nut. Makes a good little handle. That's two pieces of steel welded together with a washer on top. There we go. So that's the spring. That should come off of there, it's just stuck. So here's the two springs. The purple one's out of this machine, the 500, and this one's out of the Thundercat, and you can see the difference in height. So that's a big difference there. And these are the weights. So as you can see, it's got a different number. I think the first number is maybe the ramp profile, because these are curved. As far as I can tell, that's the same on the two. But the second number, I think, is the weight in grams. And as you can see, the ones off the 500 are quite a bit lighter. And you can tell by the shape of them too. This one, the bottom's cut out. This one's straight, so that's where you get that extra weight from. So anyway, I'll change that up and put the old weights and the old spring in the new clutch and put it back on, try it out. So I pulled the clutch back off because I don't like the way it was driving. It seems like it was just revving too high for nothing, and not really working that great. The engagement speed was really high for something like this. I mean, it's only a 500 and it's going to be kids driving this thing, so since I have the heavier weights, I figured I'll try them, because if I can make it better than it is, make it a little more tame and not have to rev so much, I think it would be better. So I've changed these weights out. I have the heavier ones in, and I'm going to try that. Well, anyways, that clutch adjustment seemed to help a little bit. It's a lot tamer than it was, and better for the kids to drive. So that's it. Ready to go back to its owner.